These are 15 craziest UFO stories ever shared on Joe Rogan. In episode 2348, Joe and Lucas Nelson break down Tucker Carlson's claim that aliens and devils have always been here, tying UFO sightings to biblically accurate angels. Are alien encounters real or just advanced human tech? JRE explores secret programs, whistleblowers, and the limits of government secrecy.
But the question is, like, why would we assume that it's a biological entity? It doesn't have any windows. It's this round thing that looks like a Tic Tac. If there is some sort of advanced propulsion system, some revolutionary way of moving through space and time that the U.S. government has developed, in some Black Ops program, that seems very likely impossible. That seems more likely than aliens visiting us. But there's more than one incident, and there's a lot of these things. And the possibility of alien life in the universe, although we've never experienced it, seems rational. It seems very rational. And if you were going to study an emerging civilization that is both primitive and warlike and yet insanely technologically advanced to the point where they have nuclear weapons, they can transmit video through the sky, they have propaganda, they have tracking of their citizens, like that's us. That's us right now. And while we are these territorial primal beings with fucking nuclear weapons, this would be a good time to start exposing yourself.
Yes.
And to stop this nonsense.
Insanity.
Yeah, and look, the reason why we named the rooms at our club Fat Man and Little Boy is because in UFO lore, that's when they started showing up. After the detonation of the atomic bombs in Japan, that's when the UFO sightings ramped up.
And they ramped up mostly in the U.S., right?
Yes.
So that's interesting because the U.S. was the nuclear power. So.
And we were the one who was doing a lot of fucking testing.
Yeah.
And also we have all these military bases. Who the fuck has more military bases than us?
No one.
Who has more nuclear weapons pointed at other people than us? We have them all over the place. And there's all these multiple sightings and eyewitness accounts of like very credible people who say these things have hovered over military bases.
It'd be pretty cool if these aliens were benevolent overlords. And they were like, hey, my children.
Yeah. Or maybe even so advanced intellectually that the concept of an overlord is preposterous. And they're just biological management. There's just the gardeners tending to make sure the weeds don't get out of hand and just like let this process continue to play itself out. Because this process of technological innovation it's the everything that humans do.
Yeah.
It's what we do at the pinnacle of our creation is we make better technology.
Well, I always wonder about fractals and whether or not, like this idea of this being a simulation, this being, like we are kind of replicating, we are creating machines and doing our best to create them in our own image, right?
Yes.
And that's interesting. That's because the mythologies that we subscribe to are the idea that this God that we pray to made us in his image. Right. And we're doing the same thing now with robots and computers. And that's an interesting thing that we seem to have this sort of paradigm, this idea that that's the scaffolding for the way we think, right? And to what end? And why are we doing that?
Maybe it's the creation
has it
of
already
a new life
happened?
form.
But has it already happened? Are we the result of that impulse that happened a long time ago?
I think we are the shit-throwing chimps that are going to become the nuclear physicists.
That's what
we are the shit-throwing chimps from 2001 that become Oppenheimer.
From chimps to nukes, what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think this thing that we become is integrated with technology. It's probably some sort of a hybrid. It's some sort of a cyborg.
That's wild.
Because I think we're already like on the verge of merging. All this talk of like Neuralink and all these various things. We watched this video the other day of this guy who was Googling questions and getting answers in his head with his headpiece on. Have you seen that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Incredible. Right? So how long before that is like that's Pong?
I know. But that's
and then you have the Unreal 4 engine in 2023 that looks like a movie.
No.
Like how long before that technology gets to the point where it's just supremely advanced and we literally are like gods.
But my question really is also the idea that that's engineering, right? That's a tool.
It's innovation.
But there's engineering. So there are two aspects to it. One is getting information faster and stuff, which doesn't get you closer to truth, but it gets you information faster. There are endless facts. But more importantly, I always wonder like why we are given this. I really believe that human potential is pretty much infinite. Whatever you can imagine and beyond, we can do, and we are doing. We seem to be doing this. Like think about how crazy that is. I can wear a headset and I can do things with my mind and look up the answer.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's magic. It's crazier than magic. But there's a way to measure that and quantify that and replicate that. So it's not magic. I can do it and I can tell you exactly how I get there, which is even crazier. So what is that? What is that leading us to? It is nudging us closer. It's like I think it's very significant that we're getting a better understanding of what it's like to be someone else.
Yeah.
We are. It's really hard to say that a Yanomamo Indian or whoever it might be thinks about things differently than I do when I know so much about how all these human beings, like someone in Iran, someone in Jordan, laughs and cries and bleeds at the same thing I do. It's being prejudiced based on what that person looks like over there is becoming harder and harder to justify. Where it was before we knew about that, we were like, well, those people over there are quote unquote savages, or they're this, that, and the other thing. And I do think that we are getting a better understanding of what it's like to be each other and being nudged in the same direction. I'm not saying we don't become tribal.
I think that's true too.
But why? And it's interesting to think about where that's leading us to what understanding. And then when we have that understanding, what are we going to do about that?
Right. And are we going to pull it together? And are the aliens here to make sure that we don't fuck it up?
Yeah.
That's the beautiful idea. The terrible idea is that it's all us. And then it's all a big ruse, and it's all just drones that we're doing because we don't want China and Russia to know about it. But we have insane propulsion systems that operate on gravity. And
yeah. I think it is us. I hate to tell you.
It seems like both. It seems like us. And it also seems like there's some shit that we just don't understand. And I don't know if those people are telling the truth. Because if the people that are telling the truth that there's biological entities, and this is what Jackie Gleason said that Nixon told him. And Nixon took him they were drinking. You know that famous story?
No.
Who knows if it's true? It's a legend. But the legend is that Jackie Gleason and Nixon were drinking. And that Nixon said, you want to see some fucking aliens? And they get on Air Force One and they fly to some Air Force base and they go to a place where they have a crashed UFO and they have biological beings that are in freezers.
Aliens in freezers? Or just a tall tale?
And Jackie Gleason sees this. And Jackie Gleason, after that, has a house built in upstate New York that looks like a UFO. He became obsessed with UFOs after that. There was a house, it was actually for sale at one point in time. Yeah, so he has this house that he had shaped like a UFO. And this is like, who knows if this is a true story, right? Because it's like, it was kind of sort of disputed. His ex-wife told the story or something like that. I forget.
I think that kind of thing is actually impossible to keep secret.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
You think generational, generations of government bureaucrats can keep something a secret?
Sure,
I don't
they
think
tell the people at the very highest level know about it. It's very few people. It's all very compartmentalized.
They're always,
they monitor everyone's phone calls, everyone's emails, everything everyone does.
Impossible.
At a top secret clearance level.
No way. Impossible.
I don't think you're right.
Totally impossible.
You're definitely not right.
I think it's impossible.
Listen, man, they can keep secrets.
When?
People
Which
at
ones?
high levels of military can keep secrets.
Yeah, but they're always rotating out. They're retiring. They're dying.
Yeah, and they probably wind up fucking Hillary Clinton and a lot of those dudes.
Hey, listen, dude. This is not is not Conspiracy Social Club. This is the Joe Rogan experience.
I am not willing to relinquish the idea that they could keep that secret.
Well, that's because it's fun to believe in.
Yeah, but it's not just fun to believe in. It is possible. It's a physically possible thing to do. Especially if you have the right people and they're indoctrinated in the right way with top secret clearance. And by the way, it's not like these people don't tell their friends. And it's not like there's a bunch of stories floating around, because there are. There's a shitload of stories floating around.
That's what I'm saying. But why would you, like, I would never keep that a secret. I'd be like, hey, you got fucking aliens.
Here's the thing. When you have senators and congressmen who find out about this, and they find out that military contractors are the ones who have access to this stuff, because the back engineering program has to involve someone who has the capability of recreating this. So who would that be? That would be the people that make jets. If you got someone who's making you a fucking a stealth bomber and you have a crashed UFO, those are the people that you want discussing like what kind of things you've recovered from a fucking alien crash, and can this be replicated?
No, here's the problem with your whole
don't
theory.
You know me, motherfucker, because you don't know. You might be wrong.
This is your wrong. No.
Don't say you're wrong because you don't know that I'm wrong.
This is the problem with your theory. Ready?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I love that you want to believe in this, and so do I, but here's the problem.
Okay.
There's no law. There's no written law that says I'm not allowed to talk about aliens. And I mean at the top levels of clearance, like the most secret level. There is no world where if I'm a government official and I take a bunch of pictures and I come before Congress and I go, here's my evidence, I'm blowing the whistle, there are real aliens.
You don't think they would go after you for
I'd never go to jail.
violating your top secret clearance?
No, because it's not violating my top secret clearance.
But it
because,
would be.
Nope.
I don't
Because
think you're right.
I'd never go to jail for that. Because I'd be like, you're going to put me in jail for exposing what everybody wants to know? The whole world would be like, holy shit, you guys kept this a secret?
That's assuming that you have access to that material to extract
There are enough people who
from
would.
wherever maybe not. Maybe those are the kind of people that wouldn't do that, Brian.
Listen,
You
my
fucking
friend.
communist. I don't like the way you think.
I'm shredding your UFO.
No,
theories.
you're not.
Listen,
You think you are, but you're just using these establishment
You're allowed to
talking
talk
points.
about
You
UFOs
sound
and you
like
never
your
get in
dad.
trouble.
You sound like your dad.
Come on, man. First tell
You're
me
a CIA
Andy Schultz will beat me up.
stooge. You're a CIA
I'll call my dad
stooge,
right now.
And you're in here spreading propaganda to the faithful listeners.
Listen to
of
me.
this
Listen to me. There are no aliens, and if there are, we know about it because it's
If
not
there is, you're
against
going to
the
come
law.
back on dressed like a clown. Agreed?
Agreed.
That's my bets I'm making with everybody now.
I'll dress
They
up
lose,
like
you
a
gotta dress
clown.
like a clown.
I'll do it.
JRE, number 1698. Joe and Tim Dillon question UFO cover-ups, government secrecy, and alien folklore.
Is it amazing to you, as somebody who spent so long thinking about otherworldly visitors, that now they're releasing all this information and no one really cares?
Well, the world is in such chaos
No
now.
one cares.
No one cares.
I couldn't
if
care
this
less.
happened during the middle of the Obama administration when
Oh,
everything
it'd
was
be
going
news.
great, it would be giant news.
And what is the news, even, that the Pentagon just can't account for all these unidentified flying objects?
Yeah, they don't know what they are.
Okay.
There's some of them that could easily be drones because they're not moving at spectacular speeds.
Right.
They're just sort of like hovering over aircraft carriers. Those could be drones. They could be some new style of drone or some new kind of technology that maybe some foreign government has. But there's other ones that were spotted by Air Force pilots and then tracked, and they have detailed data on the speed of these things. They have video of these things going with what appears to me thousands of miles an hour, instantaneously accelerating with no visible propulsion system, no heat signature. They don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah.
And this is from 2004 off the Nimitz. Commander David Fravor, who was a fighter jet pilot, is like rock solid credentials. You can't, and I've talked to the guy, I had him on my podcast, and even better, he was on Lex's podcast, and Lex did an even better job than I did, and talked to him for 2+ hours about this, and the guy's incredibly credible. That fucking thing, whenever he was tracking, went from the Nimitz tracked it. They tracked it on radar. They tracked it with the onboard sensors, the things that they use for targeting enemy crafts. They tracked this thing from the Nimitz. It went 80,000 feet above sea level to 50 feet in a second.
That's crazy.
They don't know what the fuck it is.
They don't know what it is.
They know that it was jamming their radar. They know it was jamming them, and then it moved when it took off at insane rates of speed. They couldn't even watch it. It just, it's gone. And then it re-emerged at the cat point. The cat point is the predetermined location where the jets are supposed to scramble to during this exercise. So it's literally saying, I know where you guys are going.
Right.
You're going over here.
Right.
Whatever the fuck that is, who knows? But does that mean that it's from another planet? No. It could be some fucking insane technology that the military's developed.
That we don't know. It could be
Because
DARPA.
have you seen that shit where the military, there's patents for UFO type, see if you can find what those are, because they're developing, or at least they've attempted to develop some sort of gravitational drive that would indicate that at least there's been some thought about developing a craft like that. Now, if you put a person in one of these things and you shot them off thousands of miles an hour, they turn into jello.
Right.
But who says it's a person?
Who knows?
We got a rover on Mars right now
Right.
taking pictures. There's a helicopter attached to it.
Right.
You got high resolution photographs from Mars. Here it is. Docs show Navy got UFO patent granted by warning of similar Chinese tech advances. This is what I'm saying. Patent document indicates that the U.S. and China are actively developing radical new craft that seem eerily similar to UFOs reported by Navy pilots. Now, if this is like on paper somewhere where they're trying to get patents and they're telling you that the military already has something like this, what we're getting is years later.
Right.
They've been probably developing shit like this for decades.
Forever.
So they
Yeah.
probably have some sort of working thing that can move in extraordinary ways.
We are not going to care until there's a Mars attack style raid on the White House.
Yeah.
Like that movie.
No ray guns, no panic.
Like, yeah, if you're not going to
We're real weird with it now.
Yeah.
I've always said that if aliens are real. Earth is the Tijuana of outer space.
You're not kidding.
And they come down here when they're fucked up and they want
Right.
to see a show.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then
they're
they
not
leave.
trying to. No one's trying to save Tijuana.
No, nobody's thinking about it. Yeah, it's a place that you go, and they mention it in a movie.
Yeah.
Every now and
You
then.
go see a donkey show.
Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez features it in a
Yeah.
vampire movie, and then you get out of there.
It's interesting. It's the one conspiracy that I've never gotten into that much because there's just, the information is so tough to come by that I've just always said nothing would surprise me. Nothing would surprise me.
There's something going on. There's something
indeed.
going on, but what that something is remains to be seen.
Have you seen that video of the Men in Black that walk into this? It's just two very tall, weird dudes that walk into like a hotel and then leave. Jamie, you can find it easily, and it's just these guys that were supposedly like, you know, something weird happened, and supposedly they're guys that come in like after something weird happens and like shut it down, and they're both very tall and very. And I don't know if it's fake or not. I don't think it is fake though, but I don't know. It could be fake.
Where can one find this video?
It's on YouTube or something. Jamie can find it. It's the real Men in Black. It's like the real, you know, whatever. You know, supposedly there was something that happened where, I don't know, somebody went in after it. Like somebody had to go respond to something, and these two like weird looking dudes came in. Very strange. There's got to be a Men in Black. If we know about, there's got to be some part of the government that deals with that.
Well, there's two schools of thought, right? One school of thought is that the government is way too incompetent to ever keep anything from anybody.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Right.
And there's other schools of thought where you're like, no, there's a perceived buffoonery that's attached to some level of government because there's a lot of people in government that are fucking idiots.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that work at UPS that are fucking
That
idiots.
are idiots, yeah.
But if you get to the highest levels of the organization,
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to ascend to the highest levels of the CIA or the NSA, you're going to probably be brilliant.
Right.
What are the
Right.
odds that you're not?
Right.
You're probably going to have a
A good person. No.
the best people.
But you're
going to have a
gonna
deep
be smart.
understanding
of what's going on.
Of foreign policy and how to manipulate things. And
Did you not
intelligence
find the
and-
Men in Black video?
Not really. I found something, but it was like it was animation and stuff. It wasn't really like a hotel. So
No, I don't know if it was a hotel. There was just two guys that walked in and then left, and they looked
the
very
video
strange.
I found is it's like a description of events of like that happening. I didn't find an
Okay, well-
actual video. I'm looking.
Well, it's always been one of those things, a part of UFO folklore, right? That these Men in Black folks,
Yeah,
they
that-
look oddly fake. They look like fake-looking skin when they
Right.
show up.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do. If I was going to go interview some guy about UFOs, you know what I would
Yeah.
do? I'd put like weird white makeup on.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'd
yeah.
dress in a black suit and I'd ask him strange questions while wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
And I'd have him freak out.
Why not?
Why not fuck with him?
Yeah.
Why not leave him to the point where what he's going to tell all of his friends is so crazy, no one's going to believe it?
Confuse the witness, discredit the story.
Well, that's part of, I think, what a lot of it is.
Imagine if you have
Yeah.
an aircraft that's shaped like a pyramid, right? And you're flying it over Philadelphia.
Yeah, here it is.
Okay.
That's all it is. I don't know what this.
Yeah.
Dudes
Well,
wearing suits. But it
to
is.
me, that proves it.
Yeah, what is that?
It
Real Men in
proves
Black.
it to me.
What does it say?
That proves it to me.
Well, what is the Niagara Falls? Show canceled. What is that?
Immediately.
Okay.
What is he saying?
Finally, we have perhaps the most conclusive evidence of the real Men in Black, a hotel in Canada, and the manager was a little disturbed when his bellboy informed him that the previous day the hotel had been visited by two tall men dressed completely in black who demanded to speak to him.
Maybe they were
They
Johnny
had-
Cash fans.
Yeah.
What the fuck does
To
that
me-
mean? So they're just men. This is what's ridiculous about conspiracy theories. Those are
But they
two
didn't ha- I
guys
think
wearing
they didn't
suits.
have eyebrows.
I have a suit. Do you have a suit?
Yes, but I don't think
So
they had
what?
eyebrows. Now that...
What is this? They had no eyebrows? Oh, see, that's what I would do. I would fucking shave my
Right.
eyebrows or put some makeup on over them so that I look like a weirdo, and then make them real uncomfortable when they're telling their friends, "Man, you're not
Yeah.
gonna fucking believe this. Look at these guys."
Here they are.
Okay, that's got to be from a movie, right? What is that? What is that image from? Let that guy play it out. Let's
And
hear.
that concludes our look at the Men in Black. But
Oh,
remember,
come on,
guys,
that guy's
this
got
has been
striped
a look
ties.
at just a handful of real-life accounts involving these mystery men. There are many more stories to look at online.
Oh, well,
So
as
it was a
long as
British
they're
guy.
online.
It was a British guy. So there's the Men in Black. There are
long-
many mysteries to look at.
As long as there's more stories.
Yeah, online.
That's
There's just
all
more
that's important.
content online we can sink our teeth into.
Moon mysteries, alien structures, and hidden history. Joe Rogan explores it all in JRE 70597. Alien abduction or misunderstood phenomenon? Travis Walton shares his unforgettable story.
Let's take it back to the day that this happened. You're 22. You're logging. You're in the woods. Tell me what happened.
Well, it's just, when you're done working hard physical labor, everybody's kind of jacked up, and there's a whole lot of chatter in the car. We're just talking away, it's starting to get dark. We just loaded up our equipment. We're headed out. And I looked up ahead, and I saw this kind of glow coming through the trees. First, I thought, no big deal. It was deer hunting season. Thought maybe there was some hunters camped up on the hill up there. Maybe light shining through a tent. It was still something really strange, kind of caught my eye. And one by one, the other guys in the crew started looking, but nobody said, "Oh my God, what's that?" or anything like that. It was just kind of an idle curiosity at first. But when we burst into the clearing where we could see the source of this glow, it was just, whoa, it was just mind-blowing instantly. I inexplicably got out of the truck and ran toward this thing, but I thought it was just going to take off, be gone in a flash. And
so, when you say in the clearing, so are you driving on a dirt road?
Yeah, it's a dirt road. Trees are real thick. This was a part of the contract we hadn't cut in yet, so trees were a lot thicker there, except for this clearing, and we weren't the only ones that saw it. We found out later. Sheriff had on file people who were in the area that saw it, hunters and fishermen over there at Black Canyon Lake. And the movement that they described was what the crew described when it left. And of course, I didn't see that. But
what did they describe?
They described this glow rising up and streaking off, I believe they said, toward the northeast. There were some people that probably don't want to be public about it, but there was one guy who was just deer hunting, and he worked in military intelligence, and he stuck by what he and his wife saw. They were both together. And another guy that was at Black Canyon Lake, I won't mention any of those guys' names unless they chose to, but found out later that there was more official investigation that nobody talked about at the time. Immediately, though, this was all nonsense, and these guys murdered him, and even my oldest brother, he didn't believe me. He thought they had killed me. What we were doing with the brush that we cut was piling it up. There were piles that were in the clearing so that the Forest Service could burn these piles, when the conditions were right, where it wouldn't spread, wet conditions otherwise, but burning up this excess material to reduce the fire danger in the woods. And my oldest brother was tearing those piles apart. He was certain that my body was under there.
Even his own family suspected murder. Imagine the fear, thinking your brother's body was hidden in the woods?
And there were some pretty testy confrontations between him and my brother. And I think even my other brother, Dwayne, he initially took that approach, but he quickly became sure that they were telling the truth.
Now, what do you remember when you were going through your mind and you're trying? I mean, this is a story you've told so many times, and this is a story that's been turned into a film, which it's got to be very surreal. But when you look into your memories and you try to go back to that day.
Well, I don't try. It's something I try to block out, but it's unforgettable. And there's...
What do you remember seeing when you ran into the clearing?
Well, the whole clearing was lit up with this weird glow. It's really hard to for any artist or movie to try to duplicate the strange glow there was there. Made everything look really, really pretty eerie, and
did it have a color to it?
It was kind of a golden color, but with a kind of a softness to it that was, it wasn't like beams of light shooting out. It was just this haze of light.
And did it seem to come from a specific part of the craft, or?
Most of the surface seemed to be glowing. There were darker areas that didn't give off light, but it was the parts that weren't glowing. It wasn't so hard, bright that you couldn't look at it, but it had a metallic look to it.
So what did the craft itself look like?
The moment of truth. He finally describes what the UFO looked like, and it's the kind of shape we've all heard about.
It was a classic disc-shaped craft. Years later, there was a report. I can never remember names, but this guy was saying that he worked at Area 51, and they had something in there. He worked with the Tester Model Corporation to create a model of what he was describing, and that's actually the closest of any of the other descriptions I've seen. But I don't think these things have just one type of craft. I think there's many, many different shapes.
What makes you think that?
Well, personal experience. I try not to emphasize these other incidents, but I've seen the glowing sphere. I've seen the giant black triangle. Other craft that were a ball of light that you couldn't penetrate the light with your eyes, but
Now, this is after this experience.
I think the reason my brother Dwayne was persuaded more quickly than my brother Don was that he saw a craft in those woods. That's probably 10 miles from there while deer hunting. And it was kind of tic-tac shaped, and that's something that's been observed by, in military reports recently.
Yeah. So you see this thing, this disc-shaped craft,
Yeah.
and then what happens?
It started to move and started to get louder.
Louder.
Yeah. It was the guys in the truck heard it too. There was a low, thunderous kind of a rumble that you actually sort of felt more than heard. And then there were other high-pitched frequencies. I was talking to a group of students from a technical college, and they were really interested in what the sound was like to try to, compare that with theories that they had concerning what might be their propulsion. But the increase in volume, it suddenly got louder as it started to move. And, at the same time, the guys in the truck were screaming, "Get away from there, let's go, get back in the truck, let's go." And, which would have been the smart thing to do. But as soon as it moved, it startled me, and I just ducked for cover. There was a log there. I got down behind this log, and they were screaming, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." And I didn't need to be told. I was just going to, stand up and run away. But see, when I jumped for cover, I went down and forward to reach where the log would hide me. And that brought me closer to it. So when I stood up, at that point, that was the closest I was to the object.
How close?
It was still like 8 or 10 feet away, from the surface of it.
Wait, he was only a few feet away, and then something shocking happened.
But that was when the energy discharge happened. I've worked on a number of theories about what might have happened. At the time, some of the other guys on the truck were thinking, immediately Steve said, "It got him." Like, if you shot a deer, you got it,
Right.
And so it might not have been, as we assumed at first, that it was some kind of stun gun or something, but maybe just closing that gap allowed this energy to leap to ground through me. And
Like static electricity or something.
Yeah, one thing that really weighs heavy in that direction is that when I found years later that they have satellites or something that record the number of lightning strikes, and that area has the highest frequency of lightning strikes of any place in the continental United States, except for the Everglades. The Everglades has a bit more, but that's over water. So that adds to another theory. What were they doing there? You know?
So that area that has a high level of lightning strikes, do you think it makes sense that they're observing that? Or is that why they were there? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, up until a few years ago, you know, you walk down the rim road, and if you see a tree that's been hit by lightning, you can always see it as a strip of bark that's just blasted out of there, and it's all bare, and it can actually still survive the lightning strike, but it turns the sap to steam instantly, and it just explodes out the side of the tree, blows the bark off. But I was at a conference where this lady was. I said, "What's this?" And she says, "That's fulgurite." I said, what's that? And she says, that's when lightning strikes the earth. You've got millions of volts, millions of degrees that form these crystals that aren't formed geologically. So I kind of leaned towards this theory that perhaps they were looking for fulgurite, for a very unique kind of crystal.
So maybe it wasn't random. They could have been mining for crystals formed by lightning itself.
That would be formed by that kind of blast of energy. I'd never heard of fulgurite before.
Can you pull up an image of that, Jamie? I'd like to see what that looks like. I know tritonite is something that happens when they call it nuclear glass. It happens when there is either a nuclear explosion or when asteroid impacts hit the Earth. That's it right there.
Well, these crystals are supposed to have very special properties for people who are into crystal stuff, but
what does that say there, Jamie? This is what happens. That's what can. Wow, that's wild.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. That's pretty wild. So it might be that they were looking for that. Well, who knows? Maybe it's something that they use for energy. What is that? That's really when lightning struck Santa created that thing? That's wild. That is wild. Look at that. It looks like a tree coming out of the sand. That's nuts.
That was wet sand.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, well, it's right next to the beach. It must be wet. That is crazy. That's really wild, man.
Was Jackie Gleason shown UFO wreckage by Nixon? JRE number 1986 explores one of the wildest alien conspiracy tales.
You know, Jackie Gleason supposedly had an encounter with Nixon. That Nixon and Gleason were buddies, and they were drinking.
Really?
And yeah. It's a famous story that's disputed, but apparently...
Let's go with it, though.
Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Gleason, apparently it said that Jackie Gleason and him were drinking, and Nixon was like, "You want to see a fucking UFO?"
No way.
Yeah, and he flew him to see wreckage, and they had frozen biological entities, and they got a chance to see these things that they had frozen.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So that must have been like early 70s at some
Yeah,
point.
something like that. And
That's
Jackie Gleason
crazy.
wound up having a house built in the shape of a UFO afterwards.
No
Yeah,
way.
that was for sale as recently as, I think, like a decade ago. See if you can find that
Where?
house.
In LA or something?
No, it's in upstate New York. But the house looks like a fucking UFO.
No
Like he had a
way.
UFO house built. Yeah, Jackie Gleason apparently was obsessed with UFOs after the fact.
No,
so this
what?
Is, yeah.
that
Jackie
was
Gleason's
like a
UFO
cabin.
inspired upstate New York spaceship house.
No way.
Yeah. That was
That
his
was like, and that picture makes it look bigger. Okay, that's serious.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
a fucking.
That's beautiful.
Oh, that's two different buildings?
Oh.
Oh, he has
The
more
first
than
one's
one
like
of
the
them?
guest house.
Top, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Small building. In the
Yeah,
center.
look at that.
That's the
fucking
guest house,
thing.
the other one.
Wild.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so Jackie Gleason became a UFO freak.
Man, I'm going to do that after this. That's a pretty cool looking house.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. Oh
Yeah.
my God,
Oh,
I
wow,
wish it
look
was.
at that.
I wonder if it's still for sale.
That's
Entrance to
amazing.
the mothership. Woo!
I'm going to talk to my wife about this when I get
Yeah.
home. This is serious right here. Well, now you have this SIG Spear. So there's a lot of UFO stuff on this SIG Spear, so maybe this should be reserved for taking out the aliens when they come.
I don't want to take them out.
Well, if they attack you.
Listen, I don't
If
think
they
they're going to attack.
If they attack.
If they do attack, I think they could render you useless almost instantaneously.
But them too. They're kind of like, why wouldn't they just sit back and watch?
I think they're
they're gonna pass right by.
If I had to guess, I mean, just the wildest of speculations, I would guess that every civilization reaches a point of technological proficiency when they're also dealing with these territorial warring tribes where they have the ability to literally destroy the earth. And that if this is a natural course of progression for intelligent beings, they get to this point, there's a transition where it gets very dangerous. And if I was from another planet and I was monitoring this, I would be there to make sure that they don't launch. That they don't, and that's the theme of the Mothership Comedy Club, is that the rooms are called Fat Man and Little Boy. And the reason why the rooms are called Fat Man and Little Boy is because that is a specific moment in UFO folklore when the aliens start arriving. After the detonation of those bombs.
So the atomic age didn't just change humanity. It might have drawn alien eyes straight to Earth.
That's when you start seeing this massive uptick in sightings.
Really?
Yes, and interactions with fighter pilots and these different military bases that have nuclear programs where the bases get shut down and all the power goes off. Yeah, there's like...
That's wild.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff, because if you think that they are watching, that would make the most sense. That they see that we have nuclear power, we have the ability to blow ourselves up, and we detonate two bombs, and then they're like, okay, let's go monitor these assholes.
Let's go make sure that they don't do anything that's going to affect the rest of the universe.
One country right now has them. Let's fucking specifically concentrate on them. And then they have sightings in the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union has the capabilities. And there's a ton of documented sightings and these encounters that happen. And then
so beforehand, there's not really anything.
Very little. Very little. Well, I'm sure they've probably been visiting us. If they do visit us, I would imagine they've been visiting us forever. Like, look, they've got engines. Look, they've got guns. Look, they've got this. You know, it'd be fascinating to watch. Like, look at these territorial apes with nuclear weapons. Like, it's the time to watch.
Right now, they're probably just sitting back, popping that popcorn and being like, oh, man,
well,
it's getting interesting now.
We're getting closer and closer to our fucking inevitable demise. Like, that's when the sightings are ramped up to the point where the Pentagon has to start talking about it.
And they are.
Yes.
In front of Congress.
Yes.
I mean, that's wild.
Yeah.
But no one pays attention.
No one pays attention.
It's like, let's go back to, TikTok and Instagram.
Well, I mean, they kind of pay attention, but it's not, there's nothing that you could fucking put your fork into.
Right.
You know, it's like, what is it? You know, like, why are they telling us about this? That's also, there's a lot of cynicism when it comes to, like, why is the government telling us about UFOs?
Like a distraction, you mean?
But what is it? Like, what are they telling us because they really have this information and they want to slowly leak it out because this is an inevitable contact moment and they want to prepare civilization? Or is it just horseshit? Is it just they're distracting us and this is how they, institute this drone program where they have this, anti-gravity device and they can move at insane rates of speed? I don't know. I mean, it's just guesswork.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You get to hear directly from these guys who've actually seen it, experienced it.
Yeah.
Hang out and talk with them for a little bit.
I've talked to quite a few now. Quite a few that have seen these things and had these experiences. But the Bob Lazar one is uniquely compelling.
All right.
Uniquely compelling because Bob is without a doubt a brilliant guy.
All right.
And he was a legitimate propulsions expert who it's been proven he worked at Los Alamos Labs and they tried to hide that. They tried to lie about that and say that he wasn't, but he's on the employee roster. He has an intimate knowledge of the facilities. George Knapp took him on a tour of Los Alamos. He knew where everything was. He knew the people there. They knew him.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild shit, man, because if he's telling the truth, he says it's not one that they've recovered, but multiple, and that one of them they think is really old, and they got it from an archaeological dig. They think that they recovered this thing in the ground.
That's movie stuff. I mean, you see that in movies.
An alien craft dug out of the ground, sounding less like fiction and more like a forgotten history waiting to surface.
And we all watch it in movies and think it's science fiction, but there's a lot of science fiction that has come to fruition, from submarines to going to the moon to also space travel in general, flight, just flying.
Sure, all of it. Every
and we're just like,
Buck Rogers.
No big deal.
JRE number 2033 explores the wildest theory yet. Alien abductions might happen in a hidden dimension accessed during sleep.
Well, the scares are aliens.
Because it's Fear of the
Alien
Unknown.
1 movie.
Oh my god.
Alien 1 was like, that to me is the scariest scary movie ever. That movie was terrifying.
Is it Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind that takes place in Alaska, where they combine the actual footage of the woman's real therapy sessions and stuff?
I don't know.
Jamie, you know what I'm talking about?
Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind?
It's third or fourth kind. Which one's the original movie?
Third kind.
So this one's fourth kind. I'm almost certain. Probably wrong.
I've never heard of it.
It's a really good movie. There's a woman up in I want to say Juneau or no. What's the Nome, Alaska, And back in the day, she became famous because she claimed aliens were basically like showing up and abducting her and stuff, right? And eventually, her kid got abducted by aliens, or so that's the case, and they accused her of like killing the kid or whatever it may be. Like, obviously, nobody believes that this woman's son was abducted, her daughter was abducted by aliens.
So it's not currently available in our country?
Yeah, I think it's like in Canada. I think it's showing up weird.
You can only get it in Canada?
I don't know.
Go down to the what?
That's strange.
Interesting.
But they have, so it's a movie about this case, but they splice in real footage of her therapy session that she had to go to, that she was going to while she was being abducted each night. And they do this, I don't really know how to describe it, this deep meditative state that makes you recall your dreams. And she's like describing all the things that were happening to her, these aliens, and she starts screaming. She starts like levitating up from the couch a little bit. Like it's creepy as shit. But it's a really good movie. It's my favorite abduction movie I've ever seen. And obviously nobody believes her. She runs into the one person. Oh yeah, like that old footage is like the real footage.
Wow. So here's my issue with the alien abduction thing. Other than there's not like any real solid evidence that you could point to that's very convincing. It always happens at night. And it always happens during the periods where people sleep. And when you're sleeping, I'm not saying always. Okay, I'm sure there's some stories out there. I'm sorry. But most of the stories I've ever heard are people in their bed, they can't move, aliens abduct them,
Paralysis.
or they're in a car, the car stops, they wake up, aliens abducted them. When you go to sleep and you dream, there are psychedelic chemicals that your brain makes, and we don't know how much they're making. We don't know what effect that's having on your dreams. We don't know what is going on. What is going on with dreams? What is going on with vivid dreams? What is going on with dreams that they're indiscernible from real life, and sometimes in a strange way. Like, what is that? Is that a psychedelic state your brain goes into every night?
Yeah.
And if chemicals vary in human beings, serotonin varies, dopamine varies, everything varies, testosterone varies, estrogen varies, it varies. Wouldn't you just assume those psychedelic chemicals would vary? And wouldn't you just assume that sometimes maybe even people are in very agitated, anxiety-ridden states, high cortisol levels, perhaps maybe those chemicals are coming out in an abundance too. Now,
So it
if
hits a
you're
spike in it,
lying
yeah.
in bed and you're having an insanely vivid and terrifying interaction with aliens every night, because your brain is just dumping psychedelics into you. And this is your big fear. So you're going to get abducted by aliens again. And then there they are again, leaning over your bed and they're reaching for you. And
Constant
you're like,
paranoia.
and then here's the mind fuck of all mind fucks. Maybe psychedelics are a gateway to some other reality, some other dimension that's accessible by these creatures.
What if abductions aren't dreams at all, but doorways?
I like this.
And that when you are getting abducted, you really are getting abducted. Like whatever your being is or your spirit or whatever is you is getting, you're interacting with these things. And it feels real because it is real. And because we're thinking about the ability to come in contact with other life forms as being a physical thing. It might be that there's a chemical gateway in your mind that when breached, you enter into a dimension where physical bodies don't exist anymore and everything moves in this constant soup of geometric patterns. And that whatever your consciousness is, whatever your soul is decoupled from the body and thrown into this realm.
I imagine that's probably what happens at death.
It probably is what happens with death. It's probably what it's all. I mean, that's probably why people think about it that way. That you're going to transcend into heaven. You're going to go into this new place. It might be true. It might be like a lot of the old depictions of like what happens when you enter into a psychedelic state. I've heard this multiple times that it's like a well of souls. That you're interacting with souls that are like completely unattached to a physical presence.
Yeah.
And maybe you're getting layers and layers of that depending upon how fucked up you are while you're sleeping. And maybe some of those layers are, boom, aliens in the room with you.
Peeled back.
Just aliens in the room with you. And maybe they can do that. Maybe they can visit you while you're in those states. Maybe that's what's happening too.
In episode number 1315, Bob Lazar reveals details about UFO technology, Element 115, and his experience inside an alien craft.
How long were you there?
I'd say about 6 months or so.
And what progress was made while you were there?
Well, we came up with a bunch of reasonably good ideas about how the reactor worked. And one of them was the square base of it was essentially like a cyclotron, which is a small particle accelerator, a circular one. Particle accelerators, linear particle accelerators, are just a, long tube essentially, and they accelerate particles with high voltage and, radio frequencies till they reach high speeds. But a cyclotron does that in a small circular area. And there's this very heavy element fuel, element 115, something that wasn't on our periodic charts at the time.
But it is now.
It is now, yeah.
When did it become on the periodic table now, the way the charts now?
I don't remember. Do you remember when they...
2004, Darmstadt, Germany, I think, is where they first fabricated 4 atoms. They lasted 220 milliseconds with the atoms. It's nothing, right? And then it later was discovered a couple more times they could fabricate it. Then they gave it a place then on the periodic chart. After that, called it Moscovium.
So they told you about this stuff in 1982?
Yeah, well, we kind of...
1982.
What year was this?
It was 88 and 89 when I was there.
Oh, okay.
82 is when
82 was when you were
at
at
Los Alamos.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So 88, 89, they told you about this stuff. So this was not like...
No, they didn't tell me about it. That's one of the things that this group came up with. The God, I keep losing my train of thought with this thing.
So this one area, this element 115 was the fuel.
Yeah, it was the fuel.
The world will forgive you for having a migraine. Can I just
it's really hard to think through this. Just give me a minute.
We'll just give you more booze.
I just want to say, yeah, definitely. I just want to say one thing. But for the last 30 years, people have just been on the attack on Bob, getting to know him, the personal effects on his life. It's really hard to understand unless you meet his family and his wife. I mean, this is the last thing he wanted to fucking do, was have to talk.
Yeah, we should explain that, Jeremy, that you and I had this conversation. I watched your documentary. We had this conversation, and I said, I have to talk to him.
Yeah.
The document, there's been detractors. There's been a bunch of people that called bullshit on many of the things that you've said. But over time, many of the things that you talked about, even in the 80s, have proven to be true. Things that people said were not true were proven to be true. Element 115 was one of them. Right?
Right. Element 115, the fuel they had, was stable. In other words, it didn't decay. It wasn't emitting radioactivity. When they synthesized 2 or 3 atoms of the 115, it did decay, and it was not a stable element. So they're kind of 2 different things. But this is kind of typical. Elements always have, or pretty much always have, stable isotopes and unstable isotopes. Like I think cesium has like 30 unstable isotopes to it. So, hydrogen, for example, you're familiar with hydrogen gas. It's stable. It's not radioactive. But there's also 2 other types of hydrogen, deuterium and tritium. And deuterium isn't radioactive. It's another stable isotope of hydrogen. But tritium is radioactive. Now, they're all hydrogen, but they just have different amounts of neutrons. So it's the same thing with other elements and element 115. Depending on the amount of neutrons it has, designates the isotope, but it's 115. They will continue to take or experiment and try and make 115 at different isotopes, and I'm sure eventually they'll come up with a stable version, but it's the stable version that has the properties that we're talking about.
So they somehow or another had acquired a stable version. Did they say that the stable version had come with this craft?
Yeah.
A stable element that shouldn't exist? Hand-delivered with a UFO?
It absolutely came with a craft, yeah.
So at the time, you having a firm knowledge of the periodic chart and knowing what was real and what wasn't real, what was your reaction to having this stable element 115 that wasn't even supposed to exist?
Well, everything was impossible.
Right.
I mean, down to the metal. I did get a chance to look inside the craft on only one occasion, and this was important because where the reactor sat might have been critical to how it operated, since everything operates without any interconnections, so the placement of components might be critical. So they allowed me to go inside and look at it. Again, I forgot where the hell I am.
So you're going into this craft, And what are you thinking when you're inside of it? Like, what are you seeing?
It's a very ominous feeling because there are no, first of all, everything is one color. It's like a dark pewter color, and there are no right angles anywhere. It's as if somebody took, I've said this before, somebody took a model and fashioned it out of wax and then heated it just for a short time so everything melted. Everything looks like it's fused together. Everything has a radius of curvature where two items meet. It's a really weird looking thing, but there was almost nothing other than a small foldable hatchway that looked recognizable. Everything was really unworldly, to pick a way to describe it.
So you get inside this thing, and it's designed for something that's much smaller than a human being.
Yeah, you can't really stand up till you get to the very center of it.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
And what do you think this was designed for?
I'd say something close to half my height.
Wow. So these little 3-foot tallish creatures.
Yeah, and the seats were small too. I mean, obviously it was made, for something small. But there was no, there's nothing else in there. There's just seats, the reactor, and some of the subcomponents. There's no control panels. There's no bathroom. There's no decorative components or artwork or anything that you would recognize or trim. I mean, it's just a very bare bones thing.
You're not seeing any screens?
Well, there are archways around it that are part of the superstructure, and one of the archways can become transparent. When I was in there was another group working on one of the archways, and you could call that a screen, more or less.
So through that archway, it would maintain the solidity, the solid, whatever metal it was.
Yeah,
but you could see through it.
Yeah, it just became transparent. Yeah, I saw that happen once or twice before I left.
Did you ask any questions about what the fuck?
No,
that
there's
was?
no asking.
There's
questions.
no asking questions.
No.
But when you watch something become transparent, and you realize it's still there, but you can now see through it.
Yeah, I mean, now that's not that impressive. We do have some liquid crystal materials that are like that. They have
seen that in
smart
bathrooms.
glass. Yeah, they call it smart glass. So this is just, and I don't know if the craft is made of, an advanced metal or a ceramic. It was cold to the touch, so I would lean more towards a metal.
You're not allowed to ask questions.
No, they work on the buddy system, so I can only exchange ideas and talk to Barry. Now this really interferes with science because science is based on free discussion. And ideally, you get a bunch of guys together, exchange ideas, work on problems, and that's how things move forward. But they're so over-the-top concerned about security, they split everything off, and everybody becomes stagnant.
Desperation forced them to bring in Bob Lazar, the outsider genius.
It just destroys any of the progress you can make, or at least makes it go so slow. I think they wind up shooting themselves in the foot.
Which is probably why they arrived at this bottleneck that they needed to get this madman with a jet-powered Honda to come in and see what he could do.
I think that was an act of desperation. I think they wanted someone that thinks out of the box and let's just give this guy a try here because they weren't, and they might have done this 4 more times since up to the point in time today, assuming they're still working on this thing.
And when you see this craft and you're inside, was there any indication that there was an area that they would use to control it, to pilot it? Was there a pilot seat? There
were 3 seats. They sat around, the reactor was in the dead center of it, and then equidistant around there were 3 seats. That's all. There was a large, they're not consoles, they're large rectangular objects, also spaced equidistant around the center. There's nothing on them. There's no buttons. There's no lights. There's no controls.
Look the same color, the same
Everything
thing.
is the same
it's
color.
It's just a different shape.
Right. And directly underneath them, there's 3 levels in the craft. The main level is what we're talking about. Directly under that, those are the gravity amplifiers, the big rectangular objects. Underneath them are the gravity emitters that look like, for lack of a better word, a trash can hanging on a pipe. 3 of those. And then the top layer, this is just my personal belief. I think that has to do with a navigation or their version of a computer with some planar panels, sensor panels around the craft that we would call portholes, but they're not portholes. They're just black areas. And I think that just determines its position in space. But I was I physically was in the center section, and I stuck my torso in the bottom section and hung upside down so I could see how the gravity amplifiers were positioned.
What is the roughly the size of this thing?
It's I don't remember from being there, but after all this stuff was over, I had John Andrews, a guy from the Testers Model Corporation, and we sat down and tried to figure out from what I saw and known sizes of things, and we came up with 52 feet in diameter. And
So
I
it's
think
fairly,
that's
small.
Yeah, so I think that's a reasonable guess.
Now, you said there's 9 of them, and you got a brief glimpse at the other ones. How were they different?
Oh, they looked completely different. One looked like I called it Jell-O mold, and it looked like a classic Jell-O mold with the rippled sides to it. One was a very flat disc, like like a straw hat or something like that. That was sitting up on its edge, and the thin part of it it looked like a projectile had been fired through the edge of it. So I don't know if they were attempting to see if the metal could be penetrated, or if that's where the thing came from. Maybe it was shot down. But that was the only one where I saw there was, actual physical damage to it.
A UFO with battle scars? Shot down or just tested to its limits?
And that one was roughly the same size? They
were kind of too far away to tell.
And there was several teams that were working on the propulsion system, so there was different teams that were working on these different aircrafts?
I don't know. I could only assume.
Right. Now, when you're sitting in this thing and you're looking at this otherworldly craft, your goal is to try to figure out how this thing functions. Your goal is to try to figure out how this reactor. But you would imagine they would give you more time than just one day to check that out.
Oh, yes, it wasn't one day.
Right.
Yeah, Barry was there. I think Barry was sleeping there. I'm sure they had. Now, that isn't weird. Up at the Tonopah test range where they work on stealth fighters, you go, I think, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and you stay up there too. So it's not weird to stay up at the test site.
Right.
So, I think he pretty much, and he acted like he's been up there for a long time.
Yeah.
But
he's still there.
Yeah. Who knows?
Do you have contact with this guy?
No. Oh, no. I wish I did. I kind of thought he was going to come out after I did.
Right.
And I think I took so much flack and it's so much shit for what went on. I think I wound up helping security there, and everybody became afraid of, doing or saying anything after that.
So what kind of reports did you have to give? So you're not making much progress, right? You're just trying to figure out what this thing is, and it seems impossible.
Well, we didn't personally make them. We were always, there was never a lot of information that we gained. The guy, you would call him our supervisor, his name was Dennis Mariani, and kind of a military-looking guy. And he would routinely pop in, during the day and, hey, what's going on, guys? And he would essentially relay any information, anything new we came up with. He was our go-between, where we presented him the information, and then he took it to wherever they were, assembling all the data from everybody.
Now, I assume you're working normal days, like an 8-hour day?
No.
No?
No, it was really weird that I would be only called in on certain times and certain days. And they would be weird hours, too. Most of the time was later in the evening. I can get a call at 11 o'clock at night, and they'll say, it's now 11 o'clock. By 11:45, you need to be at the McCarran terminal, and, we'll let you know when we have more information.
But what did you do while you were there? If you're looking at this object, this reactor, and you can't figure out what it is or how it works, other than the fact that it works on this element that we don't even know about.
Sure. The thing was what you do with anything. If you're trying to analyze it, all you can do is perform tests. And all we did is try and come up with every kind of test we possibly could. We tested, it violated a lot of what we thought was impossible to violate. One of the first laws of thermodynamics, essentially any machine, any device that operates always makes extra heat. Nothing works at 100% efficient. Even the headphones you're wearing, anything that takes power, some of that power is going to be converted to heat, and it's just wasted. This didn't. We looked at, back then we had infrared cameras. They're different today, but back then you had to pour liquid nitrogen into the camera to cool the sensor down and get these infrared images you've seen. but it never got, no matter what the load was on the reactor, it never got above the ambient temperature, which is impossible. I mean, you're, pulling out huge amounts of power and nothing ever gets warm.
A reactor that breaks the laws of physics. Cold, silent, unstoppable.
We tried measuring magnetic fields, and there was nothing there. So we started playing around with the emission from the emitters, the gravity wave itself, and saw what we could do with it and how it was focused. So we really spent all our time just trying to see what the stuff can do and what we can control.
So you were seeing what it could do, but you couldn't ever figure out how it was doing it.
No, not really. I mean, we really could only use come up with a best guess. Now, I can't say we really that I could absolutely state for certainty how anything actually worked.
Now, how did you know at all how they were piloting it? Because they were doing some tests where they were having these things fly around in the sky, and this is what gets us deeper into your story. Right.
I was out there for one test. Right. In fact, I was with Barry in the lab, and Dennis came in and said, "We're about to run a test. Why don't you guys come out?" Or I think he said, "Barry, why don't you come out here and bring Bob with you?" We went out there, and the craft was already outside the hangar and was just preparing to lift off. Now, they were in communication with somebody in the craft.
So there was a person in the craft?
Yeah, there was certainly a person in there. Now, it's not a comfortable place to be in because it's small, so the guy has to be sitting on the floor in the middle, my best guess.
And this is the same specific craft that you worked on? Because that was the only craft that you were in?
The only one that I touched and worked on. And it quietly lifted off the ground, which was incredibly impressive to see.
Quietly or silently?
Well, quietly, because it
make some sort of a noise?
It produced a little corona discharge from the bottom. A corona discharge is kind of a high voltage brush, little bluish glow discharge. As it was lifting off the ground, you can hear a slight hiss sound. Now, as soon as it cleared the ground by about 5 or 10 feet, maybe even less than that, the hissing stopped and the blue glow disappeared. So it lifted off quietly, and then it hovered silently, if you want to be specific.
The impossible machine rises. No roar, no heat, just silence.
Wow. So then what kind of maneuvers was it doing?
It took off, for that particular time, it took off, moved a little around to the left and right, and then sat back down. The craft itself, they communicated with it because I saw the guy talking in a regular VHF radio to the person in the craft. And I even saw the frequency that was on the frequency counter of the communication, the transceiver there. But what's weird is he shouldn't be able to communicate with the craft with a radio. The radio wave should bend around the craft. I mean, it shouldn't be possible. Every single thing about the craft and the way they operated didn't make any sense to us. I mean, that's something we talked about for a while after.
Why should the frequency bend around the craft?
Well, you really have to look at the way the gravity wave comes out of the craft. There's the reactor's in the center, and there's a waveguide that goes up to the top. There's actually a small appendage that sticks out of the top of the craft, and it produces a heart-shaped gravitational distortion around the craft. Now, if the craft is sitting in the air and you walk underneath it and look up, you actually cannot see the craft. The light bends around it. You're bending gravity, bends light. It bends radio waves. It shouldn't be possible to communicate with a craft that has an envelope around it that's distorting all forms of energy. But they were apparently in contact with it.
Somehow or another, through some unexplained way that they didn't bother explaining to you. Mm-hmm. So this thing gets up, it just does some very simple maneuvers, left, right, goes down. And did they discuss this with you? I mean, they said they wanted you to see it.
No, they just wanted, they didn't discuss anything with me. It sat down, we looked around for a bit, and Barry said, let's go back. We went back in the lab. All we got to do was see it. Fast forward to some months later, I did have the test flight schedule of the craft. Now, they had times they had designated high-performance tests. This obviously wasn't one that was a high-performance test. The high-performance test goes above the mountain range, and they do much more radical moves with the thing. Look, this is a prized item, and they're not doing anything like taking it out of the atmosphere or flying around to other countries or anything like that. They just play with this thing right over the test site. But they were doing some radical moves with it. And since I had the test flight schedule, statistically, the amount of traffic in the surrounding areas on the highway was lowest on Wednesdays. And that's why Dennis told us that all the test flights occurred only on Wednesdays, because it'd be the least chance that anyone would see what's going on.
And this was before the government had expanded the forbidden territory around Area 51 and Papoose Lake and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that occurred after my story came out. Then people started going up on the mountaintops and trying to look down into there, and they kind of freaked out and then did the land grab and pushed everybody back. But yeah, I think all that occurred long after, that I came out.
Joe Rogan and GSP dive into alien encounters, telepathic contact, and the mysteries of lost civilizations.
It was one of the things that they say, people that have been abducted. I had Travis Walton, this guy.
I've seen. I've watched it.
His bobblehead.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Very compelling in his descriptions of his encounter with these beings. But one of the things that he was saying was they were talking to him, but it wasn't with words. Like they were communicating with him, and he understood what they were saying, but it wasn't. They weren't saying things in a like, "Hey, Travis, why don't you relax? Because we're here from planet fucking whatever it is."
The information was flowing faster because it was like boom right away. What I think, you get it.
Yes, right? They were explaining things to him in some sort of a telepathic way.
Wow,
and it was mind blowing to him. And I think that that's probably the future of communication. Just like you can transmit information from phone to phone, right? You can call people. They're nowhere near you, but you can talk to them. You can send a video to someone. It's going through the air. It's just data, right? It's just information.
Do you think Travis and Bob Lazar and all these guys that have extraordinary claim believe what they are telling you? I don't know if what they believe is true, but do you think they believe what they are telling you in a way that they're not lying, they're telling the truth of what they're believing?
I can't tell for certain, but I believe Bob Lazar. I believe what he's saying is true. I believe he's telling me. Now, Bob, he had one moment where he was passing by a window and he said he saw something that was small and these people were standing over it, and he didn't know if it was an alien or whether it was some sort of a form that they were trying, like a doll or something that's supposed to represent the size of an alien or some sort of a model of an alien. But he remembers he looked briefly through a window and he saw something small. He didn't see it move around, didn't see it talk, so he doesn't know what he saw. Yeah. Because in his world, as he explained it, when he was working at Area 51 Site 4, that's where he worked. He said that it was very compartmentalized. And he's saying it was one of the problems with them trying to figure out, this is assuming he's telling the truth.
Yeah, of course.
One of the problems they were trying to figure out was how to back engineer these devices, these ships. But the problem was they weren't allowed to communicate with other people outside of this very limited group of people that had access to these vehicles. And the people that were involved in the metallurgy were not allowed to communicate with the people that were involved in whatever the propulsion system was. They didn't understand what they were trying to decipher these things. But he said, and if you listen to the podcast that I did with him, that it didn't work because the scientific method requires multiple people to communicate and share ideas and explain, and they didn't do that.
You can't improve like that.
Right.
You need to share ideas. Right. You can't do something and compartmentalize everything.
But my communication with him, I don't know if he was telling me the truth, but he didn't seem deceptive. Yeah. And he's a brilliant guy.
It's clear he's clearly like borderline genius. You hear him speak, he's very educated.
And some of the things that he talked about came to fruition. Like one of the things was there was a concept of this thing called Element 115, right? Yeah. Now that was not really proven until the 2000s or somewhere in the 2000s.
Element 115, myth or technology?
They used a particle collider and created this thing where it was a very unstable, very short-lived particle. But he was saying that wherever these beings are from, they have figured out a way to utilize a stable version of this element 115, and that's how they propel themselves. The things that he was describing were also exactly the same things that were experienced by Commander David Fravor, who was a guy who was a jet pilot.
I saw, yeah.
Yeah, and so he experienced this thing move in that same direction, that same way, where there was no visible propulsion system, but they tracked this thing going from 80,000 feet above sea level to 1 in 1 second. So that's the amount of time that it takes radar to track this. So it might have been less than a second. This thing traveled from 80,000 feet to 1,000.
No time.
To 1 feet.
It's like that thing with the hand. He says he measured the distance between the bone and the, when you get in, you put your hand in it and measure the distance between your bone and the...
the scanner.
Yeah.
Yes, the scanner.
There is a lot of things like this. And, like Zachariah Sitchin was, there's a lot of stuff that you can think of that how could they know that at the time, but it's
well, the Zachariah Sitchin stuff is interesting, right?
Yes.
That's all the Sumerian text. The Sumerian text is some fascinating stuff because it's all from 6,000 years ago. And by the way, Zachariah Sitchin, he's very controversial. There's even a website called SitchinIsWrong.com, and it's basically scholars of ancient Sumerian who say that his translations are completely off. But even if his translations are off, there's still a lot of really confusing stuff about ancient Sumer. And one of the things is their depictions of the solar system. They had a depiction of the solar system 6,000 years ago that shows the sun in the center, and it shows all of the known planets in the outside, and they're relatively accurate in terms of the size.
Yeah, and how about the formation of the Earth? Tiamat, Marduk. I don't remember which one is what, but that's
the formation of the Earth.
That's the model that we use today.
Well, the scientists,
the asteroid belt, that's the model that we use today. How did he know that at that time?
I don't know how they knew that. When you're saying it's Earth 1 and Earth 2, and what that means is that there was an original version of Earth, and then Earth was hit by another planet at some point in the distant past, and that's what created the moon, and that's also what created the asteroid belt.
That goes on the different direction than the rest of the planet. Like they knew that too.
Well, there's also a thing called Bode's Law, and Bode's Law measures the distance between planets, and it's based on the mass of the planet, and they figure out, because of the mass of the planet, how far these planets are from each other. And one of the things that fucks that up is the asteroid belt. I think what I might be wrong about this, but the distance between Mars and Jupiter is one of the things that screws that up.
Asteroids, random rocks, or cosmic fingerprints.
And they think that's explained by the asteroid belt, that some collision created this asteroid belt and created all of there's something like 900,000 known near-Earth objects that were created by the impact of these planets.
One thing I believe, and I'm sure you're the same because you had a lot of these guys on your podcast, like Graham Hancock, Randall Carson, John Anthony West. There's clearly knowledge that we've lost in the past. This is for sure. Like, just think about the Library of Alexandria.
Yes.
Man, imagine the knowledge that it was in there before it burned.
I know. Imagine.
Oh, man.
Imagine.
People think we lost like 1 millennia, like just when it burns. Of knowledge, medicine, botany, science. It's just crazy to think of. So very often, sometimes, when crazy stuff happened like that, like I just think that perhaps they had knowledge that there's knowledge that we lost. Like, just think about the Greek fire. It's a weapon that was used in the naval battle, and it's really, really known about historian. You can research. They still don't know exactly how it works, but it was so destructive. It was like, at the time, it was like a secret weapon. Like, they didn't want to share, and it was known to be very efficient in naval battle.
I don't know what that is. I don't know about
Greek fire. If you go Greek fire, you'll get it. Boom. It was used in naval battle. So they used to throw fire, flames, and they used to, people that are burning, they still burn in the water. So they think it was made with some kinds of petrol or they still don't know. They cannot recreate it. And it's clearly something that a lot of historians have talked about. It's called Greek fire. it's just an example that it's clear that it's a technology that we have lost.
Well, if you just look at the pyramids, the pyramids are a perfect example of technology lost. It's almost like the best example. Like those ancient civilizations almost letting everyone know, hey, there is information that we have that's so above and beyond what's expected of people from this era.
Yeah.
Because if you think about people that lived 2,500 BC, you don't think about someone that had the kind of proficiency to create something that, when people don't understand, it's not just that the pyramids were big, but they were so perfectly designed that when they put all the stones, they reached the top. Like if anyone was off by even a half an inch at the bottom, as time went on, an inch here, an inch there, by the time they got to the top, it would be all fucked up. It wouldn't be perfect. But the pyramids were so amazingly perfect, and they were originally covered in smooth limestone. So smooth, polished limestone that would probably be insane to look at if you were staring at it from a distance. Like this immense structure of 2,300,000 stones, some of them cut from quarries hundreds of miles away, all perfectly aligned and put together by these people that lived thousands and thousands of years ago.
You know, most scholars would say that they use a ramp, but if you think about it, like there's other scholars that would counter that by saying the construction of that ramp need to be in an angle that it could be so difficult to do that it will challenge the construction of the pyramid itself, you know?
Again, it's like maybe they use a ramp. I don't know what they used.
We don't know, yeah.
But whatever they used, it's so amazingly precise that they were able to make this 2,300,000 stone structure. This still to this day. I haven't been, but I have friends that have gone. Like my friend Andrew Schultz just went. Danica Patrick, the race car driver, she told me she just went. People that I know that have been. My friend Eddie Bravo, when he went, he's like, you get there, you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. It's so big, apparently.
Seeing the pyramids in person, a second awakening.
It's like an awakening.
Yes, that our idea of what it is, when you see it in a photograph, it looks incredible. But I guess I need to go, because I guess when you see it in person, it's just like a complete reset. Like it recalibrates what people are capable of, because you have to think like, man, this is 4,500 years old.
Think about Darren Couillou, Gobekli Tepe.
Yes.
Man, it's
Gobekli Tepe's
the thing
10,000 years older, right?
Yeah, it's like 12,000 years old, you know, like
at least.
Like how do you conceive that? And sometimes what happens is that it gets infected by other civilization that passed there after that construction. So they think they are the one that built it. I think is it Pumapunku, the one that there's clearly two different technology. You see the stone are perfectly aligned with like perfectly cut.
Yes.
Then you have other stone that are just on top, like it's like a butcher's job, you know, and it's clearly not the same technology, the same people that built these two layers, you know.
Right.
So
well, that was also John Anthony West's concept of Egypt, that there's multiple eras, and that if you go deeper, like some of the stuff that they found when they dig deeper in the sand was a different construction method. It looked different designs, but still equally complex and fascinating. It's like there's probably many eras of human civilization, and there's probably been whatever it is, whether it's disease or some sort of a natural disaster or something that happened. Asteroidal impact was John Anthony or was Randall Carlson's and Graham Hancock's. That's their theory. Is
12,000 years ago, at the end of the Pleistocene era.
Yeah,
but Homo sapien is date to 3,000 years old. You know, so imagine
how many?
3,000.
No, Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens, 3,000.
I think it's older than that. I think it's several hundred thousand.
300,000, sorry.
Yes.
300,000, sorry, my English.
Yeah.
Homo sapien is 300,000 in Morocco. I'm 100% sure. That's why I read about this kind of stuff.
I think they think it's somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. But so if you take that 300,000, 300,000 time for an evolution.
Right.
Why would it be only in the last 10,000 years that we would,
invent such immense structures?
It's kind of strange. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's also, we're so different from all the other animals. Like, we're the only animal that wears shoes. We're the only animal that wears clothes. We're the only animal that really manipulates its environment the way we do. I mean, other animals think, bees make beehives and shit like that, but they don't do anything even remotely interesting in comparison to what we're capable of doing and what we have done for thousands and thousands of years. And why? One of the things that Bob Lazar said that he was taught when he was at Area S4, at Area 51 S4, was that one of the things that they were telling him was that human beings are the product of accelerated evolution.
Are we products of alien engineered evolution?
And that these creatures occasionally come back to check upon our progress. And yeah, which is crazy.
Wow.
But that might be how it works throughout the universe, is that these beings that are very far advanced, they come back and they see these creatures that are pretty close and they give them a little boost. They push them ahead a little bit, because otherwise it would take so long. And maybe we don't have the amount of time because of the fact that we're in this fucking shooting gallery of asteroids, that these things come down and whatever progress you make is wiped out by impacts or by supervolcanoes.
It's crazy, but it's not that crazy. If you look at the belief of human being through evolution, you know, like in ancient Greek, they believe in different, they were believing in different gods, like in different times, different civilization had different belief. Now some people believe Jesus walked on water, you know, which is fine too. That's their belief, you know. If you believe that human was, you know, the result of alien beings, you know, it's another belief, you know, like
it's not
everybody believe in different things.
It's
you know?
not that crazy if you think about what we're doing.
From Trump and Nixon to secret government files, Joe and guests question if alien entities are already here.